morning, everyone. Welcome to today's session where we are about to take our drone operations to a whole new altitude. I'm Shruti, your pilot for the next half an hour, and I promise a smooth flight into this insightful session. Today's session is a special one. Why? You ask. We're here to introduce two flight based offerings ready to change your autonomous drone operations. Let me build the suspense a bit more. Before we dig in, I have a few housekeeping rules to help us make this session a smooth experience for all of us. Have questions? Drop them in Q&A box anytime. We'll tackle them at the end of the session. This session is recorded, so if you miss anything, you can always revisit it later. Join the conversation on social using hashtag NestGen on LinkedIn and Twitter to share insights and tag our speakers. Also, a huge thanks to our NestGen 25 sponsors, the ones who are leading the way and the industry forward. Now, let us dive right in. I am thrilled to introduce our speaker for the day, Kaushal Kulkarni, who is the Business Development Manager at Flightbase and is here to launch the Flightbase Pro and AIR with all of us. Whether you're managing a handful of drones or a fleet, Flightbase Pro gives you the controlled reliability and you can say goodbye to the manual hassles and hello to streamlined one-to-many drone operations. And not to forget, we have the flight-based AIR, aka Aerial Intelligence for Robots, which is the AI upgrade for any drone operations in any industry and any vertical. But more to come from Kaushal. Kaushal, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shruti. Thank you for the nice, warm introduction. And yeah, I'm very excited for the session. For everyone who's dialing in, we have quite an exciting session because we're going to talk a little bit about how 2024 has been. We're going to talk about how 2025 is shaping up these first 2 months, what the future of aerial autonomy is looking like, and how Flightbase is enabling enterprises to jump onto the bandwagon of docs and the AI hype train. So we're going to break it down step by step, talk about a few challenges that large enterprises are facing, and then map those problems with interesting solutions. So with that, I'll just share my screen and I'll get started with our session for today. I hope my screen is visible. Awesome. So thank you for the introduction, Shruti. As I mentioned, we are going to jump into what the future of aerial autonomy is going to look like. And of course, we're going to talk about Flightbase Pro, Flightbase AIR. But before that, I would like to do a quick recap of 2024. Me and my team, we personally work with a lot of large enterprises across the globe. And the theme of 2024 has been the deployments of docs across all geographies for different use cases. So every day we wake up, we woke up in 2024, we found new partners, new customers deploying docs for really a really diverse range of use cases. So this is from bird scaring to security to mapping, construction monitoring, you name it. And it has been very exciting to see compared to 2023 how rapidly this adoption has been took place in 2024. And in that entire journey, one thing that was constant was learning. So there was a big learning curve for a lot of our partners, a lot for us as well. So we were listening, we had tapped into, we have a wide distributor network via which we get constant feedback. And one of those primary feedback was end-to-end workflows. How do we extract the most value out of these docs that are deployed across the globe with end-to-end workflows? So how do we do IFTTT based workflows? How do we solve for different challenges that enterprises have? And that's where 2024 ended and 2025 started. And what a year it has been so far. The entire buzzword or the buzz has been around AI. It's around agentic flows. It's around how AI is seeping into all the different industries that we see around us. So from productivity, sales, marketing, biosciences to also aerial autonomy. And what we've been doing at Flightbase constantly is we've been pioneering the use of AI, and that's what 2025 looks like for us. But before we jump into what the future will hold, what 2025 will look like, it is important to go back to the basics. So let's talk about wave theory for a bit. Wave theory is a theory that we established based on our years of working in the doc business for deploying docs for large enterprises. So we have four waves: wave zero, wave one, wave two, and wave three. As you can see, wave zero is where most customers start. That those are the proof of concept. They're still demoing the doc. They're still setting up the doc for their use cases. Wave one is when they make the first purchase. Now, this is the most critical sort of stage because they're doing a very uh, the first wave is where customers are really skeptical of how the return on investment will look like, what are the different use cases that they can target, and therefore this stage, when successful, leads to a single site deployment. Now here is when we start talking about BVLOS compliance, IT security compliance, because the doc is now being integrated into the enterprise network of the customer. The heads are turning. So the IT department will knock on the operator's door. Hey, what are you guys doing? You need my approval. The regulatory bodies will come in and say, hey, what are you guys doing? You need a compliance certificate. So wave two takes a while. Typically, it takes 6 months. What we've noticed from the 6th to the 12th month phase. But once this roadblock, or I would say this stage is crossed, that's where we talk about scale. That's where now the customers identified use cases, they've got all the permissions in place, they have a green light from their management, and that's when they start talking about 3 sites, 4 sites, 5 sites, and that's where wave three comes in. And here now it becomes a complex fleet management task, team management task. It becomes a complex data orchestration problem that we need to solve for. So what how we'll structure this entire session is we'll first talk about, based on the waves that we experience with customers, we've identified 4 core problems that customers have faced in their entire journey from wave zero to wave three. So the 4 problems that we've primarily identified that are holding customers back from, probably going to wave two or wave three, and it really depends on a case-to-case basis. Some customers face these problems at wave zero itself. Others probably face it at wave two, wave three. But the 4 core problems, and I'll touch upon them briefly here. First is data security and IT compliance, a big header in itself. These docs are being integrated into the network of enterprises. So a lot of customers are requiring a green light from their IT departments. And these are not like drones. So drones, you have an RC and the drone itself, which is completely independent until unless you integrate it into the network. But because you have an SD card set up, you can always do a data transfer and then work on the downstream data independently. But with docs, that's not the case. Second problem that we identified is docs have been deployed. Wave one is successful. What next? How do I realize the return on investment? I already use Pix4D or Esri. How do I use the data that I'm collecting in the upstream with the softwares or the platforms that I'm using in the downstream? That's where enterprise integrations comes into play. Third is around cumbersome mission planning. So this is primarily coming into picture when we are talking about asset inspections, pipeline inspections, so industrial use cases. You have 2D mission, 3D mission, but what more? How can we improve the user experience to plan much complex missions in tight spaces? The fourth is lack of intelligence. And that's where 2025 ties in is how do we make sense of the data that we're collecting? How do we integrate AI into the workforce to reduce the dependency on manual intervention for remote operations? So let's dive into the first challenge. We'll take it step by step and I will double click on each of the problems. So the first problem is data security and IT compliance. As I mentioned, because of major hurdles that IT departments are setting in for good reason, given that the doc needs to integrate with the network. The first problem that a lot of customers are facing is the scaling issues. Purchases of docs are dependent on these IT security checks. The second is the nature of these approvals in itself. So they're quite complex. There are a lot of documentation. There's a lot of documentation that needs to go into the application. There are a lot of tests that customers or their IT teams are doing. So it's quite a complex scenario to navigate. The third is data access. So here we talk about authorization. Here we talk about data residency. So who's authorized to use my data? Where is my data going? Who has access to my data? And the third is where is my data being stored? And the fourth point is where wave one and wave two deployments are being delayed. So that's primarily for customers in wave zero, where IT requirements or challenges are the first roadblock to doing anything. Even procuring the first dock becomes a challenge. With Flightbase, we've been very um, aware of this issue. We've been doing this for the last 10 years now. So we understand the nature of requirements that customers have. And one of the lowest hanging sort of fruits to get these approvals in place are the certifications and compliance reports. So the first is ISO 27001, which we have. We have SOC 2 Type 2 and GDPR for European deployment. So these are all certifications that we have with our cloud-based deployments. So when you talk about Flightbase Enterprise, when you talk about Flightbase Zero, any subscription of Flightbase, which is deployed on cloud, we have these three certifications along with detailed VAPT reports that we provide to customers. So typically during wave zero, these documents suffice where they come in, the IT teams go through these documents. And in 90-95% of the cases, we are good to go with wave zero deployments. That's not the case for wave two and wave three. Wave zero to wave one, you're good to go, but wave two, wave three, the nuance comes in when we are integrating with. So wave zero, wave one, typically customers use guest networks. They use certain carved out networks from the enterprise. Wave two, wave three is when we start integrating with the network of the enterprise. So firewall protection, secure allow lists. What domains does Flightbase hit? What are the fully qualified domain names? They need to whitelist IPs on their end to pass that firewall. Third is real-time traffic monitoring. So where is the dock communicating? Now, the nature of the dock itself, the DJI dock, the country of origin is China. So there are a lot of large enterprises who face that issue of they need real-time stats on where is the dock communicating. That really helps allay the concerns of most teams. And the fourth item is there a method of blocking unwanted comms from the get-go? So what has happened is in 2023, early 2024, a lot of customers, when they started identifying the communication pattern of docs, they realized that the doc is a very chattery system. It chatters a lot. It loves to talk to random IPs, which it has nothing to do with. And that's where we understood the need of coming up with flight-based shield. We noticed that this is not very, it doesn't build confidence when the doc wants to communicate to the entire world. So the best is to sandbox the doc uh, using an external firewall and blocking all unwanted IPs and allowing only the flight-based domains. So if this is all technical to you, please feel free to ask me questions. I'll more than happy to explain this. But the best way to explain this is via a video. So we are jumping into the flight-based dashboard. In the AIR section, which is when you connect an AIR device to Flightbase, you can jump right into the diagnostics section. And here there are two panels. One is the maintenance panel and the other is the shield. So I will jump right into the shield section. This is a very interesting view. So if you are an enterprise customer currently stuck in wave zero, wave one, and your IT teams need confidence, this is what you show them. This is what you pull up on the flight-based dashboard. Here you see exactly total number of events that an external firewall is blocking. That Flightbase is set up with the Shield initiative. The destinations to which the doc was trying to communicate to, and the IPs have been blocked or the events have been blocked, and also the allowed domains, which are all Flightbase owned domains. So these are the domains that your IT team will be interested in. Your IT team will also be interested in analyzing patterns as to where the doc is trying to communicate and whether or not the unwanted comms have been blocked. So this is a very has been a very helpful confidence building exercise with large enterprises. So it solves for all the four problems that we spoke of in the previous slide. So I'll just quickly jump here. The external firewall blocks all comms. We allow only flight-based domains. There is a real-time traffic monitoring of all the comms that are happening, and there is an automated server blocking all these unwanted comms. So moving on, let's dive into the second challenge. I briefly touched upon this. Another challenge that we observed is, okay, you got a green light from IT. Now we're in wave one. Operators are comfortable flying the drone. They're comfortable with remote operations. You have a waiver in the process. Now, how do I justify all of this upfront cost that I've made in the hardware, in the pilot training to my management? The best way is to maximize the full potential of the dock by targeting multiple use cases. So a lot of our customers, I'll talk about a customer in Australia, they have a granary, they're using it to scare birds. But then how do I also use this dock for site security? Or how do I also use this dock to map the entire site and maybe do some sort of construction monitoring? Most of these most of the drone solution providers, enterprises, they have a mature drone practice. So they're either using Drone Deploy, they're using Pix4D for mapping, they're using Genetec or Milestone for security, they're using a DAA system for flight safety. So by integrating all of the upstream collected data with these platforms, customers are then able to expand their scope of imagination, and they're able to target different use cases. And with Flightbase, we help document all these into a very robust ROI calculation, and we are able to help them justify those costs. And the easiest way to do that is with the help of Flink. So the way we integrate with different platforms. Top three, which most customers used in 2024 and continue to do that in 2025, is first the Alarm Flink, integrating with alarm sources to do an IFTTT based workflow. If this, then that. If an intruder alarm is triggered, fly the drone to the location. This can be either automated or manual, depending on your regulatory landscape. The fourth is the video streaming Flink, live streaming the gimbal or the payload information into a Milestone or a Genetec. And the third is for mapping use cases, integrating with Pix4D, Drone Deploy, Strayos, depending on your use case and your preferred software. These are all the Flink partners that we signed in 2024, and it's been overwhelming. We see quite a lot of big names jumping onto this model of ours, the platform initiative that we are taking. And depending on the customer's preferred platform, they can integrate it with Flightbase and expand the scope of the use case. So I'll just quickly play a couple of videos. The first is the Genetec Flink. So here you can see that the Genetec system, the video management system, has all the video feeds from different drones in real time. So for a security operator, they get an eye in the sky. They get an additional data point when they're doing security ops. So think emergency response, think public safety, think industrial security. This Flink really helps, realize that ROI, as I mentioned. The next is Pix4D. So there's a long video where most of us know, you can plan a mission on Flightbase. You can execute the drone will fly, do a grid pattern mission, collect all of the data. And once that data is collected, you can quickly go to the gallery section and export all of the media, which goes into the export manager. So once you go to the export manager, you have all of the data exported and ready to go. And once the data is ready to export, you can share it with any Flink. So if you have both Esri and Pix4D for different setups, then you can share it with either Esri or Pix4D. And this entire initiative is also being automated. All right. So this is a really powerful tool for construction monitoring, mapping related use cases, GIS use cases, etc. So this is the output from our site. And you can take these overlays, export them, and use them in other platforms. You can also, in the future, import them into Flightbase. So that was the second challenge. And one thing that I will come upon, and I'll touch upon Flightbase Pro and Flightbase AIR. One item that I missed is Flightbase Pro allows customers to integrate with Flinks, which is really powerful. So moving on, in the interest of time, I will get on to the third and the fourth challenge. The third challenge is mission planning. So now we are jumping into asset inspection, and as I mentioned, you can do 2D mission planning, but what about the altitude data? Relative to the takeoff point or relative to the ground, you need a more nuanced approach. 3D mission planning is great, but most pilots are comfortable with actually flying the drone and recording the waypoints. So you can do that with, we've introduced a new feature, which is a 5D mission planner. So in Flightbase, you can actually fly the drone remotely and record waypoints to plan a mission. How that helps is it not only captures the drone location and altitude, those are the two dimensions, it also captures the pitch, tilt, and zoom. So the PTZ data points as well. This helps plan really nuanced missions around very complex infrastructure. So if you have substations, power lines, if you have multiple trees on site, if you have a lot of heavy machinery moving around, you can actually do these missions and plan missions and then set corridors accordingly. The fourth challenge, which brings us to AIR, which is one of my really favorite topics, is the lack of intelligence. We understand that docs help us collect data in remote, helps us with the live streaming, but how about that leads to excessive human intervention, right? It leads to the delayed response time. So how about adding a layer of intelligence to docs? And that's where we released Flightbase AIR earlier this year. In fact, just 3 weeks back, where AIR connects with your doc and gives you object detection in real time. It also provides data security and other items. Please feel free to get in touch with me. We can give you a live demo one-on-one. But the chunk of the use case is actually doing detection of vehicles, objects, and future classes in real time. So all of this is happening in real time. And because AIR is deployed close to the dock, it directly connects with the dock. It's an edge device of sorts. These models are very close to the dock itself. So it's not an onboard computer which is doing detection in real time. Rather, it's a compute device which takes the video directly from the dock and gives you detection overlays in real time. So why I mentioned that is because there is a lot of vertical scalability that is available with Flightbase AIR, as opposed to having AI onboard a computer which is on a drone. So onboard computers have limited scalability, whereas an actual CPU unit, which is weather hardened, gives you much more scalability. So one more item here is we aren't just detecting, we're also recording and notifying. So upon detection, we are also, if the operator is not in front of the screen, there is a sound alert that comes up. And also in the backend, the AIR unit is actually recording the video for evidentiary purposes. So here you can see that the video is recorded and it is logged in the flight log section. Right. So we have these two classes already. And before I jump into different kind of models, which I think people will find interesting, is the vertical aspect that I was mentioning. We have an NVIDIA GPU in the AIR device. It's a edge device which connects with the dock. It has 1 TB of local storage. This is an HDD, and 512 GB of SSD, sorry. So you can have local data storage. So data residency is covered. Further, you have expansion slots. So you can add SSDs of up to 20 TB, 30 TB, depending on what you can source from the market. It is fully ruggedized. So if you're doing remote operations, I was just earlier speaking to Sensorim, who are based in Australia. So they're using one of these devices where they're deploying it at plus 45 degrees Celsius and negative 5 degrees Celsius. So it's fully ruggedized. It has 4 RJ45 ports. So in the future, we'll have the ability to connect with external devices. As I mentioned, the operating temperature ranges from minus 20 degrees Celsius to plus 60 degrees Celsius, which is which will cover you for most deployments. It has a 3-year warranty as well. So with AIR, we are giving quite a lot of flexibility when it comes to vertical scaling. We also have a model of bring your own model. So we will uh, promote or create an entire community where folks can plug their own models based on the data that they have trained on in using AIR, and then use, so think cattle detection, think animal detection, etc. We have a system integrator program around this as well, wherein doc solution providers can onboard as AIR partners, and they can create unique solutions using the AIR itself. Now, all of these challenges, so challenge number 4, challenge number 1, which was data security and detection, is being covered by AIR. The issue, again, one more item was the scalability. And that's where we came up with Flightbase Pro. We have Flightbase Zero, which is a $0 subscription. We have Flightbase Enterprise, which is more suited for large enterprises. But for medium, small to medium users who want to just get started, we've come up with Flightbase Pro. So with Flightbase Pro, you solve the first challenge, enterprise grade data security. You get enterprise integrations with Flinks. You get 5D mission planning, and you get real-time AI by integrating an AIR unit. So the Pro is an all-in-one solution. From a pricing point standpoint, Flightbase Pro is not a per doc subscription, it's a per organization subscription. So we are charging $1,000 or $999 per year per organization. So even if you have one doc or if you have 10 docs, you just need to pay $1,000 a year, and then you get billed based on your usage. So you get 5,000 video viewer minutes upfront. Those are the live streaming minutes, and then you get 2,000 minutes every month. Now that gives you the flexibility because you can start small, scale at your own pace, and expand when you're ready. We have Flightbase usage calculator, so we can actually estimate what kind of a usage you will have on Pro, and we can help you plan your next steps on expansion um, with with the help of our sales and solution engineering team as well. So you get the flexibility, you get a pay-as-you-go model. Companies can start small and they can scale at their own pace. So with Flightbase Pro, we always like to say, "Are you ready to get set pro?" Right? So that was my time. Thank you so much for patiently listening. I'm more than happy if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them. Shruti, I didn't get a chance to see. Okay, I can see a few questions. Is AIR included in Flightbase Pro? No. So AIR is a separate unit in itself. The AIR unit is an additional, it's an add-on. We charge for the actual hardware. With the hardware, you get the software package bundled in as well. So Flightbase is not included in Pro. Pro is because not everyone will need an AIR, whereas Pro is something that every doc user can get started with. So essentially, you can procure the AIR separately, and more than happy to connect with you to discuss more specifics. Second question is, how will the Flightbase AIR add value to my dock operations, considering Dock 3 is said to have its... Oh, that's a great question. So I actually covered this implicitly. So with Dock 3, the detection will happen with an onboard computer with the M4D or M4DT. With an onboard computer, you have the ability to do basic detection, human detection, vehicle detection. You can also probably plug in a few of your own models, but there's not a lot of vertical scalability. Think futuristic. Think future proofing your deployment. If you want to do a large language model deployment, if you want to do text based prompts, hey. Like one question that I get all the time, or we have an internal test, which is really cool. Please detect a red car. Is there a red car in the scene? If you see any ambulance on scene, please notify me. These kind of text-based prompts to do real-time detection is something that we have on our roadmap. And now envisioning that with an onboard computer is very difficult because there is a limitation to the amount of compute you get. Whereas an edge computer, when you separate these two instances, when you have an edge computer, you can very easily scale your model locally. So that takes the second question. what level of customization is available in Flightbase Pro? That's a good question as well. Happy to take that up separately with a demo, but in general, you can integrate alarm flings, you can integrate live streaming flings, you can integrate with your mapping solutions. You can also play around with the live streaming minutes. So you can do custom bundles. You can also you have storage add-ons, so we can integrate with your local storage. So there are quite a lot of customizations. Overall, Flightbase is very modular, so you're able to play around and come up with different kind of solutions for yourself. And we have a lot of drone solution providers in the industry who work with us, UVT, Sensorum, uh, folks across the globe who are creating their own, solution stack with Flightbase Pro. So you can get in touch with them, and we'll be more than happy to connect you with them, and you can see what they have to offer. So I think those are all questions, and we're just 1 minute over. If there is any last question or any other thought, happy to take that up. Shruti, anything that you would like to add, maybe?
I think we're pretty much done. So we don't see any questions, but we are more than available to take any more questions. You can visit us on our website and you will be able to fill in the form and we'll be getting back to you soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please go ahead. Sorry, I'm just typing in my email ID as well. So if anyone wants to directly reach out, please feel free to do that. We can share more content. We can share this presentation deck as well on it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Kosh. That was an amazing session, and I hope it was insightful as well for stayed back for the session. We'll be stopping it here, but then we're always available on Kaushal has provided his email ID, but on our website as well. And we look forward to seeing more inquiries from your side. Thank you so much. And yeah, bye-bye.
Thank you. I'll just plug Nejan. Thank you, Nejan, for this. It's an amazing platform. Please head on to the next session.
Yes.
Let's keep this moving. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much.
Goodbye.